Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to the voice of the times this Sunday, November 7, 2021. For today's editorial, Christmas Outlook Bright for first time since COVID. The improving health outlook led us to discovering the American businessman and humorist Arnold Glazo, who was known for his memorable quotes, including this one. A good leader takes a little more than his share of the blame, a little less than his share of the credit. That seems appropriate for the health authorities, on whom the public has heaped much of the blame for the biggest pandemic in a century. In our misery, we forgot that the real enemy was COVID-19, and despite the public anger and hostility directed at the Department of Health, the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, and others in government, they carried on. Because of them, Filipinos are looking forward to a bright Christmas for a change. Of course, the crisis could have been managed better, but no government around the world has made it through the pandemic so far unscathed. Singapore, for instance, has fared better than most countries, but it is experiencing a spike now. The Philippines, which has been tagged as an unsafe place to be during this health crisis, has fewer cases now. Ironic. Admittedly, the Manila Times was among those who bashed the health authorities when the country's situation was dire. It seems only fair now to acknowledge them for continuing the effort to eradicate COVID-19, especially the embattled Health Secretary Francisco Duque III. We can only imagine how difficult it was to work against the pandemic on one hand, and on the other, shield himself from those calling for heads to roll. Naturally, COVID-19 is far from over. And despite the public animosity directed at the health authorities and the rest of the government, they are still racing to vaccinate as many people as possible. That is no small task, given the poor public health infrastructure and the few medical professionals left in the Philippines. In the Visayas and probably elsewhere in rural areas, even dentists have been tapped to assist doctors and nurses in vaccination centers. Even then, there are not enough professionals for that job. Given these hurdles, it would have been easier for any public official to retreat into public life and leave the burden of responsibility to others. But Mr. Duque and others are still there, and they have asked for none of the credit that they now deserve. Cautious optimism. Because of their effort, COVID-19 cases are falling, even with the target vaccination target still far off. This frees up the government to nurse the economy back to health. The alert level has been further downgraded, and the timing could not be better, with Filipinos already looking forward to Christmas and to a strong economic rebound next year. Like we mentioned, however, COVID-19 will likely linger for years. We notice from other countries that cases can resurge, and new variants can still emerge. The Philippines cannot relax just yet. Every citizen should do his or her part, particularly to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. The sight of people lining up for their inoculation makes us skeptical of talks about vaccine hesitancy. Also, people should remember to wear their masks properly, avoid crowds whenever possible, and wash their hands often. Even as fairness merits our acknowledgement of our public health authorities, we urge them to strive for continuous improvements. In particular, we support efforts to increase the pace of vaccinations. Public spending on healthcare infrastructure should also increase, although that may be a task for the next government. As we said before in this space, the pandemic has exposed the sectors that have been neglected for decades. For now, we should not forget the lessons gleaned from our hardships, the times when sick people could not find a hospital to admit them, even the occasions when the Philippines could not buy a vaccine from countries whose citizens did not want to be vaccinated. Certainly those managing this pandemic also have their own bitter experiences. The changing of seasons should provide some comfort for that. To once again quote Mr. Glazo, "Nothing lasts forever, not even your troubles." And that's the editorial for Sunday, November 7, 2021. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.